Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we have a couple of storms to talk about. The west is going to get active again with those major storms, most of which being snowstorms, but we also have a very close call major nor'easter for the east coast where the European model has a very major hit, and a few models have some misses. So we're going to have to talk about all of that within this video. Anyways, before we get into things, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, do you think this nor'easter will be a hit or a miss? Because it is going to be a close one. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and we're showing that cooldown that is ongoing because this is going to play a major role, especially in the nor'easter, because with this current jet stream setup, it's going to allow for a coastal storm to set up, whether it is too far offshore or if it's just onshore and brings those major impacts onshore, which would include strong winds, by the way, and inches of rainfall as well, and potentially some snowfall. I don't want to get too crazy here, but it does look like that is potentially possible. And then things are going to really switch out west after that is all said and done. We're going to see that trough head west for a bit and bring us a lot of the same that we saw in October with those major storms coming on shore to the west coast. Here's that jet stream, by the way. This is our 200 millibar height, so this is way, way up there in the sky, and this shows us where those winds are headed way up there. And, you know, I've always talked about these two jet streams and how important it is when they kind of combined. We see our northern jet is heading right on shore to the west and then dipping down over the east. That is our trough located out there. But look south. We see Baja, Mexico in through the more central regions of Mexico there, and then also out through the Yucatan Peninsula. And that kind of combines as it heads up towards Florida. You can see it combines with the northern jet there and they become one. This is when we really see these big storms. If this was wintertime, this could potentially be a blizzard just because of the fact that this setup is classic for something like that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it is November 7th, not January 7th. And this will not be a major snowstorm or anything crazy like that. Although on the very northern extent, I would not be surprised if we do see some snowfall, likely not accumulating, and even if it does, it would be very minimal. So let's take a look at that precipitation or our simulated radar. And this is by the time we're reaching mid-morning on Friday, November 5th. So this is only 2 days from now. So this is looking very likely that there will be a nor'easter. It's that path that is very uncertain at this point. And it could swing either way. But at this point, it's heading towards Florida. This is a classic Miller A nor'easter. I talk about Miller B's and Miller A's because that's a big, big difference there. Miller A's start out on the Gulf and they head through Florida and then up the coast from that point. A Miller B would come from the upper Midwest and then dip down into the Ohio Valley and then head offshore of the Mid-Atlantic or the Northeast coast, only getting that northern half of the East Coast involved. Miller A is the entire coast here. And then by the time we reach about the same morning hour, but of Saturday, November 6th, you can see this one is a strong storm and it's offshore of Georgia now, heading up the East Coast. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to watch this one move all the way up the East Coast, where we're going to see major rainfall along the coast and then potentially some snowfall there for New England as well. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. Now, this is by the time we're reaching about the same morning hour, but of Sunday now, November 7th, and as you can see, this one has dropped from 1,006 millibars to 996 millibars, so it's dropped by 10 millibars in 24 hours. And we could see some heavy precipitation for North Carolina, Virginia, the Delmarva, and New Jersey there. And if this one just shifted a little bit further west from this point, this would be a much more impactful storm for these states as well. But if it just shifts a tiny bit eastward, it'll be a minimal storm for these areas. Likely just wind making its way onshore if this one was to shift, let's say, 50 or 100 miles eastward. But with the same thing in mind, if it shifts that far west, we could see much more impact. So that's why this one is such a close call. And by time we reach about a little bit earlier in the morning on Monday, November 8th, so this will likely be about 6 a.m. on Monday, we can see this one has dropped more than 10 millibars. We see a 981 millibar low pressure system offshore, well offshore of New England, but we do see that heavy precipitation for New England, rainfall, and then even snowfall there, as you can see, for Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. This would be one of our first snow events for this region, if not our first snowfall event for this far south in New England. Very, very interesting. And by the time we reach about 2 a.m. here on Tuesday, November 9th, this one is pretty much moved offshore. It is gone by that point. Total rainfall here, if you're anywhere in the grays, the greens, or the blues, you are at an inch or below. The yellows are going to be 1 to 2 inches of rainfall. The reds is going to be 2 to 5 inches of rainfall. I mean, you see some of those browns there for the outer banks of North Carolina and also for regions of Florida, and that's where we're going to be at 5 to 10 inches of rainfall. So I would say generally anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rainfall would be likely for the most coastal regions if this storm does take this exact trajectory. Again, if it moves further eastward, we could be taking a look at an inch or under or even less because of the fact that it's that far offshore. But if it heads further west, we could be taking a look at widespread 5 inches plus. So there is so much that can happen with this one. This is our accumulated maximum wind gusts. So this takes the entire storm and shows you the maximum wind gusts for each location. If you're anywhere in the blues, you're under 34 miles per hour, which is usually considered to be quite minor. And then those green areas there, that's where we're going to be in the more moderate wind gusts, where things could start to get a little bit more nuisance-like. We could see some twigs and branches breaking a little bit. We have 34 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts there in the greens. The brighter the greens, the closer to 50 you are. And then the yellows, which we do see some of that reaching the coast for all of these states, but especially the Outer Banks of North Carolina and then eastern New England. I'm talking Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, areas like that especially. That is where we're at the 50 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts. And I even see some of those grays and browns moving on shore for Nantucket, Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, and then the Outer Banks as well. That is where we would be at 70 miles per hour plus, which is obviously major as far as wind gusts, especially for a nor'easter. So we're going to need to watch this very closely because with this storm intensifying, it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger as it heads up the coast. You can see those browns and grays become much more abundant the further north up the coast you look. That's because the storm is going to go from a 1006 millibar low pressure system offshore of Georgia to a 981 millibar low pressure system offshore of New England. That's why it's going to be gaining that wind speed throughout its entire course. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to take a little bit of a look at some of those potential big storms out west with some major snowfall potentially. Now, I counted up a handful of storms for the west as I was trying to make this video this morning. This is storm number 1, starting out in just 30 hours from now, or maybe even less by this point, maybe about 24. This is 2 a.m. on Thursday, November 4th, and as you can see, we have a lot of rainfall moving on to the west. And by the time we reach about 8 p.m. that night on Thursday, we could see some snowfall for the Cascades and then the Northern Rockies as well. That storm ends up moving out, but we see another one moving in by the time we reach Friday afternoon already, 3 p.m. on Friday, November 5th. We have our next one, again, snowfall for the Cascades. And then the next day, we see this one moving more onshore. We have a 995 millibar low pressure system about to move onshore to Washington and Oregon. Abundant snowfall for California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana as well. This one generally weakens and moves up into Canada, and we see that snowfall lingering for the Rockies and the Cascades, but generally comes to an end. The biggest of which moves in about Tuesday of next week. That's going to be about 6 a.m. We see a 974 millibar low pressure system offshore of the western regions of Canada and then also Washington state as well, where we see heavy rainfall moving on to all the western states, California, Oregon, Washington, and even moving into Idaho by this point. But we also see heavy snowfall for the mountainous regions of Washington, Oregon, California, and it's beginning for Idaho and Montana. And by the time we reach the next morning, 6 a.m. on Wednesday, we can see that snowfall is widespread throughout the Rockies, the Cascades, all of these mountainous regions, and that would likely bring inches and inches of snowfall, probably 1 feet plus. And by the time we reach about 8 p.m. on Thursday here, November 11th, we actually see another major snowstorm, but this time for the north central United States, better yet. And we'll have to watch and see. That's obviously far out, but this model is projecting a snowy pattern out west and for the north central United States over the next 10 to 14 days, or about 10 days to 2 weeks out. And as you can see, once we take a look at this total snowfall, if you're anywhere in the blues or grays, it's going to be anything to about 6 inches of snowfall. Purple is going to be 6 to 10. Pinks is going to be 10 to 20. and those pastel blues are going to be about 20 to approximately 36, and those pastel pinks and purples are going to be 36 inches plus. We see the 36 inches plus widespread throughout the Cascades and then even down through into the mountainous regions of California. We mostly see the 20 to 36 inch amounts for the Rockies, but widespread pinks going on. So a lot of snowfall expected for the West over the next 2 weeks. Anyway, for today's confidence tab, we talked about some medium to long range things in this video. So we're at a 4 out of 6, which puts us at about a 50 to 60% confidence today. But I feel like the nor'easter is likely. It's just, will it bring a lot of impacts to the East Coast or minimal impacts to the East Coast? It's a flip of a coin at this point. We do have the GFS and the Canadian model that think it'll be offshore. And then we have the European model, my favorite, and I think the best model, that is on board with an East Coast impact. We'll have to see how these models trend over the next few days. But all of these models have frequent storms out west, bringing a lot of snowfall. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys yesterday, how do you think the month of November is going to go beyond this cooldown? And James Marr said, I believe after this cooldown, we will have a brief warm-up and another big cooldown. So overall, a colder month compared to average. And I think this is possible, but it is hard to see what's going to happen after this cooldown than warm-up because it's so far out. But I am hopeful that there will be more cooldowns on the way after that big warm-up. For today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our Platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Larry the Pan, Mandy Birchfield, and Patrick Strickland as well. I would also like to thank our Diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Kudelesa, Catbite, Charles Dennett, Cindy Klein, Alan Goodmaben, Bill Dallas, Gary, John Colisi, Dwight Phelan, Stephen Cornenthal, and Thomas D. Barr as well. If you'd like to be a part of this very amazing patron entry today, you can do so by joining our very awesome Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comments down below. I would also like to thank our channel members Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. You can join this one next to the subscribe button down below. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and as always, subscribe for more weather-related content. I will see you guys in the next video.